Hi, this is Michael. This is week 35 of the Eclectic Roots Groove playlist curated by RCSQ Records. As I mentioned in previous weeks, I've been listening to the recommendations that Spotify makes, and they're really quite cool in that they know that I'm following this Eclectic Roots Groove genre, and so now they're bringing other people to me that potentially fit in that genre, which is very, very cool. There's one guy that I just discovered this week. His name is David Deacon, and I said he has this incredibly unique story, and I think it would be worthwhile. You can go to his website, daviddeacon.com, but he's a singer-songwriter, poet, former champion race car driver, painter, entrepreneur, and an example of how to live life, really live it. He's now in his 70s. He's 70 years old. David Deacon's fifth album, Good Day, Good Night, is a collection of stories that reflect on the crashes and burns and dust yourself off recoveries we all experience to various degrees. He tells them with intensity of someone who has often paid a big price for his choices. They have a visceral realism, a sort of an inevitability, a touch of humor, and maybe even a fondness for the losses. The guy is really cool. What's interesting as well is that there's kind of similarities between him and I. He's Canadian. I'm Canadian. He went to school in St. Catharines. I went to school in St. Catharines, boarding school. He went to another university, and then he went to Brock University. He also went to Paris. He studied arts. He started off as he has a lot of daring in his life. He was a motorcycle racer, and then he had this like epic crash where he was basically said, I was basically DOA, dead on arrival. I ended up 11 hours of neurosurgery, a plate in my head, pins through 5 breaks in my right femur, and 3 in my left shin bone. And so what's really funny about that is that he has this epic crash, and then he says, well, so he said it was just a mess. So I quit racing. It's pretty funny. So I quit racing bikes, and a couple of years later, I started racing cars. There's a guy. He just has an appetite for life. You know, he just got totally smashed up, and then he's back racing cars. But then he fell in love, and his wife, and he thought, okay, maybe it's not such a good idea raising a family racing cars. So then what's really funny is that he says, I kept doing it until the fear and consequences. So he's racing cars, and he did really, really well. He drove in Le Mans 24, and he also worked with Villeneuve, the Formula One racing car driver. So he's quite an intelligent individual. And then he got into being an entrepreneur. He was general manager of Porsche division of Volkswagen, Rothmans Porsche. He also got hired around Semco Incorporated, an environmental solutions company. So he really is interesting. And then he said, okay, then I wanted to do something else that was dangerous. So he said the best thing to do that was dangerous was to get into music. So he released albums in the 90s, but now he really has had a resurgence. He has an incredible band behind him. So I just think from a standpoint of him, eclectic, he's totally eclectic in his heart of hearts, being an entrepreneur, a painter, a poet, a writer, a racing car driver, a motorcycle driver, an entrepreneur. He has a real hunger and a thirst for life. He writes that even if he had died in his motorcycle crash, he would have been happy because he's lived life to the full. So he's definitely an individual that's like that. Okay, so that's his life, which is super interesting. And what I'd like to do, I'm doing the one song of his that came up was, and they all sang along. And I want to do another song of his, but what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to reach out to him and maybe do actually an interview with him if I can pull it off. So I'm going to give it a go. But he's very, very interesting. And then, I mean, to talk about the production, I have a love for production and how it's done, and to make it sound real and alive. And when I listen to his music, I mean, he's one of the few people, whoever produced his music and whoever mixed and mastered it, I think they did an amazing job. His band is Canadian, from Ontario as well. But yeah, what I was going to say is that the way that the music comes across, when his voice comes in, and before I even say about his voice, let me just see here. There's this, I know that there's this really cool thing. So, okay, publication praise. On Cool, quote unquote, Deacon's sound is the first, last, and only word. With his magnetic stage presence and top-notch band. I'll get to his voice in a second. There's an unusual artist at work here. They write, let me see, I know I found it. There was this place where it says, I'll find it here. Race car driver, there's the same thing. Good night. Anyway, his voice sounds really gravelly and present. He has a kind of a Leonard Cohen kind of quality. He speaks his lyrics. His band says, please do speak your lyrics, but he also is singing as well. He has a very deep, groveling, groping meaning yearning kind of voice that tells a story that really brings you into the music. And the way it was produced, the engineer, the mastering, the mixing engineer really has delighted us, because they put him front and center, but yet at the same time, it's not like it's front and center where he's up front and the band is way behind. They've done an incredible job, which I always try to pursue as well when I mix and master my stuff, is to have the voice up and center, but to have the band around him so that he's the main character and the music. Whoops. Let me just turn this off. We'll just keep going here. That he is like I said it before, he's the theme of the movie, and everybody else is the support, and they've done a great job in producing him. So I'm gonna start to play. I think there was one other thing that I wanted to say. Yeah, some fan notes of his: a brilliant poet with stage energy, terrific writer and performer, tonally engaging performer, musician, lyricist, spoken word poet, a blend of soulful depth and range of humor, also delivered with tons of personality. Oh, here it is. David Deacon blues and roots, and it's root music. Isn't it interesting where they write about him, because we were doing Eclectic Roots Crew. David Deacon, blues and roots music, attached to a 6'5", the guy's huge, rangy and rugged looking guy. He has a voice, and this is it, he's a voice that sounds like it could have an atomic decay number attached to it. So it's just super present. His bluesy, old school rock ballad storytelling spends time digging into the psyche of both someone who has traveled a lot of roads and the people who he has met along the way. If you like Dire Straits, if you like Tom Waits, if you like Leonard Cohen, if you rode motorcycles, Dylan for sure, perhaps Van Morrison, you'll definitely love this. He's like them, but not like them all at the same time. So I'm going to play the first part, and you're going to just be captured by his voice. And again, the mixing and recording engineers that did the work, hats off to you, because you did an incredible job. Let's start it off. And the words are great too. So I just went to, and they all sang along. I'm just going to read a little bit of the words. I left, for this song, I left behind the memories, I left behind the dreams, frozen in thoughts like stitches in the seams. I think that's such a great image. Frozen in my thoughts like stitches in the seams. I didn't understand their tears as I drove out of sight. Now I'm thinking about them, an oasis in a desert night. I remember singing in the night, this is the chorus, and they all sang along. I remember singing in the night, and they all sang along. And this part is really, really great because there's a chorus that comes in, and again, it just wraps around him, and it just sounds absolutely amazing. In my way of seeing it, as I said back then, nothing left but good time, nothing left to say again. I got a handful of thinking. I love that image. I got a handful of thinking and a fistful of friends. That's great. Standing in the place where that whole story ends, I remember singing in the night, and they all sang along, and they all sang along. So let's have a listen, and you'll be blown away when his voice comes in. Can I play a little louder?
Yeah. I left behind the memories.
Great voice.
I left behind the dreams. Frozen in my thoughts, like stitches in the seams. I didn't understand the tears as I drove out of sight. Now I'm thinking about them, an oasis in a desert night. I remember singing in the night, and they all sang along. I remember singing in the night, and they all sang along. And they all sang along.
So his voice is really front and center.
In my way of seeing it, as I said back then, nothing left but good time. Nothing left to say again.
It's so forward and present.
I got a handful of thinking and a fistful of friends.
Nice background vocals there.
Standing in the place
Got a great groove.
where that whole story ends.
Great chorus.
I remember singing the night, and they all sang along. I remember singing in the night, and they all sang along. I remember singing in the night, and they all sang along. I remember singing in the night, and they all sang along. Still here, but also gone, and they all sang along.
Voice is so rich.
Still here, but also gone, and they all sang along.
It's a great song. I highly recommend you check out David Deacon, that you follow him. He really is a great artist. He's lived a full life. He is living a great life. And the production of it, the poetry in his music, the presence of his voice, it's really great. He's a super thoughtful man who is expressing what he's gone through in his art, and he's doing a great job. And a great job done by those people, the band behind him, an amazing band. Great job done by the recording engineers, the mixing engineers that have done the work, because it's a really well recorded piece of music. So I'm gonna reach out to him and see if I can talk to him about it. Maybe I'll strike out, but you never know. You miss every shot that you don't take, as they say. So I'll give him a shout out and see if we can connect, and we'll stay tuned. If not, I'll just cover his next song because it's a great song as well. So, wishing you guys all the best, and I'm gonna play this again because it's so cool. Lucky Church Groove playlist curated by RCSQ Records. Ciao.
I left behind the memories. I left behind the dreams, frozen in my thoughts, like stitches in the seams. I didn't understand the tears as I drove out of sight. Now I'm thinking about them, an oasis in a desert night. I remember singing in the night, and they all sang along. I remember singing in the night, and they all sang along. And they all sang